This is Photography Bay Reviews. Since Sony entered the market in 2006 with the A100, we've come a long way from what started as a carryover from the Minolta mount to the Sony A mount. Sony went through several experiments with AF systems, from the A300 and A350 that had the image sensor in the mirror box in 2008, and this allowed for the traditional face detect autofocus while in live view mode. And then moving on to the A7 and other SLT models, the translucent mirror technology. And all of these remain Sony's A mount. While continuing its A mount endeavors with the SLT models, Sony developed its NEX system, and the E mount was born out of the need for a different mount design to work with the more compact NEX mirrorless bodies. The E mount system has matured over the past few years, and Sony has chosen to eschew the NEX branding and move all of its interchangeable lens stills cameras under the Alpha brand name, with only a designation of whether they are A mount or E mount. The A7 and A7R are Alpha E mount cameras, but they are the first full frame E mount cameras from Sony. The primary differences between the two cameras are the sensor resolution, the AF technology, and of course the price. The Sony A7 is a 24 megapixel sensor, and it uses a hybrid AF system with phase detection pixels directly on the image sensor. It's the more affordable of the two as well. The A7 retails at $16.99 for the body only, or $19.99 with a great little 28 to 70 millimeter stabilized zoom lens. A7R is equipped with a 36 megapixel sensor, which is believed to be the same sensor as found in the Nikon D800, and relies solely on a contrast detect AF system. It runs $22.99 for the body only, and currently isn't available in a kit with a lens. Virtually any full frame lens, including all those old 35 millimeter film lenses, can be used on the A7 and A7R thanks to available adapters. This includes Sony's own A mount lenses via an official Sony A mount to E mount adapter. And the good thing about the A to E adapter is the Sony A mount lenses will autofocus on the A7 and A7R. The bad news is that the AF is very slow for these A mount lenses. And honestly, you only want to shoot still subjects because the A mount lenses are just painfully slow. The A7 and A7R aren't going to be confused as sports cameras or low light autofocus masters. They have some shortcomings in low light or with fast moving subjects. However, I found the AF system to be more than competent on both, as long as you stick with the appropriate subjects. I think street photography is a great place for both of these cameras. Certainly the better the light, the better performance. I spent an evening in Vegas during CES with the A7R, and it nailed focus on most of my shots, even though it was dark, and hand holding it with the Sony Zeiss 55 millimeter f1.8 lens. And I have a similar impression of the Sony A7 when you slow down with it, but neither are really going to nail the fast moving subjects or deliver superior low light autofocus performance. With nearly identical bodies, the external features on the cameras are essentially the same. The A7 and A7R both feature high resolution 3-inch tilting LCD, and I actually preferred the tilting display compared to the pop-out vari-angle displays. And I found myself using the tilting display like a waist level finder, which allowed me to get some street candid shots that I otherwise would have missed. And in the past, I've griped about not having vari-angle displays on cameras versus the tilting displays. However, I'm starting to lean more toward the tilting display, but I understand that's a subjective preference, and certainly something that's subject to your personal taste. So if you're a big fan of the vari-angle displays, then you're certainly going to miss it on these two cameras. However, the electronic viewfinder is fantastic. It's big, bright, and there's really no lag. But one of the first things you will probably want to do is turn off the image preview. If you leave the image preview on, then as you're shooting with your out of the lens, you're going to get a 2-second preview of the previous shot before you can frame up your next shot. And that's a little frustrating. It doesn't act like a true optical viewfinder at that point. With the image preview turned off, it almost feels like an optical viewfinder. It's nice and bright. It has a fast refresh rate, and you can clearly see your images in it. There are surely some optical viewfinder purists out there that will dismiss the cameras because it doesn't have that. However, what the Sony A7 and A7R deliver is among the best electronic viewfinders out there. Additionally, the electronic viewfinder offers a full-time level overlay inside the viewfinder, It gives you level results on both X and Y axes for tilt and horizon effects, and it remains available after focus confirmation, which is nice. Both the cameras have built-in Wi-Fi and NFC support for connecting mobile devices to share images or remotely control the camera via Sony's Play Memories mobile app. This process worked fine on my iPhone 5. However, I couldn't get it to work on my Galaxy Note 3. It would attempt to connect to the camera, but it never connected. I don't know if that's an Android issue or something with my particular Galaxy Note 3, but it's something I wanted to point out. The video features on the Sony A7 and A7R are just fantastic. You get that great full frame look, and there's going to be more and more E-mount lenses coming from third parties. I used a Rokinon 85 T1.5 lens to shoot with, and it was a great cheap lens option for the native E-mount. Like I said earlier, there are so many third-party lenses available with mount adapters that there's really an endless combination of lenses that you can attach, and especially video shooting with the A7 and A7R, because you're going to be taking more time, you're going to be focusing manually, you're going to be dialing your exposure manually. You're not going to miss out on some of those automatic features that you would miss when you're shooting stills. Both cameras offer up to 1080 60p capture and AVC HD, and of course the AVC HD is a highly compressed codec, which may be a downer for some users, but you have the option of using HDMI capture device like the Atomos Ninja to capture uncompressed clean footage of 1080 60p or 60i through the camera's HDMI output. Sony was also thoughtful enough to include visible audio levels while recording, and you can enable zebras in live view in 5% increments from 70 to 100%. Focus peaking is also available for video capture and of course manual focus in still image capture as well. These cameras are great for video, and it's clear that Sony realized that these full-frame cameras would see their fair share of video work among budget-oriented enthusiasts and indie shooters. And winding down, I want to touch on the menu systems, which are greatly improved over the previous Sony E-mount NEX cameras. Now the menus are a lot more logical. I'm not as comfortable in them as, say, my Canon cameras, but Canon is what I shoot most of the time. However, the layout, I think, feels more like a Canon tabbed menu system than the Nikon scrolling menu system. There are also a ton of manual controls on the outside of the cameras via buttons and dials, and you can really make the cameras work for what you need to control. There's quick access to ISO, aperture, and shutter speed controls. All the controls on the exterior of the camera are well placed for quick thumb and forefinger operations. You can quickly access these controls and move along with your settings and continue shooting. All in all, the Sony A7R and A7 cameras are really fantastic full-frame mirrorless cameras that Sony really knocked it out of the park with. These cameras are really kind of the first of their kind in this genre of compact full-frame cameras, and it's only going to get better from here on out. The price is right on both of these cameras, in my opinion. I think Sony delivers a ton of quality and a ton of capability for much less than what you would expect from Canon or Nikon from a comparably featured camera. Unless you need that fast, low light, or sports-oriented autofocus, I think there are a lot of photographers that will appreciate the quality and capability of these cameras. There are those handful of caveats based on the tilting LCD, the electronic viewfinder, which is still excellent, is not an optical viewfinder, and of course those autofocus caveats I've mentioned. But all in all, these are fantastic cameras.